I had a question for Dr. Jackson. It sounds as though a lot of your argument is ain't so, ain't so, ain't so. So I had a question relative to what your position is. I would appreciate your putting an age on the universe, an age on the Earth, and an age on the KT boundary.
KT boundary is in dispute in the creation model. It's seen as being sometime after Noah's flood. Age of the Earth.
I was more interested in years, not.
Okay.
Biblical.
So we're talking about something like 4,000 years ago.
For the KT boundary?
Yes. And that would explain, too, why we can have complex biomolecules still existing in tissues that are found in dinosaur fossil material. Find a dinosaur bone that is not mineralized all the way to the center, that is not petrified all the way to the center. What on earth are you going to do about that? And you've got blood actually in it. Now this was not just one lone case. We found this in the Triceratops, T-Rex at the lower right-hand corner, and a mosasaur. And here it says, here 2 likely red blood cells are seen within a possible blood vessel running through fibrous bone matrix. Possible blood vessel, likely red blood cells. This is what they look like under the microscope when you make fresh tissue slides. Many evolutionists have tried to say those are not really red blood cells. Well, look, they're exactly the same size as a red blood cell. They're red, and they're in a vein, and they're same shape. They'll say these are biofilms that have been generated by rafts of bacteria. Well, they just happen to be the same size and shape and color as red blood cells, and they're all crowding through this vein. This bone, when it was cracked open, stunk like a cadaver. It's from the Hell Creek Formation in the Badlands of Montana. And this kind of thing makes the idea that dinosaurs lived 4,000 years ago not sounding quite so stupid. This is actually data. It's there's collagen proteins, and according to the laws of chemistry, proteins should totally fall apart into their monomers, into amino acids, after 40,000, 100,000 years, tops. So this is totally unanswerable, and it actually is evidence for a much younger Earth. And you asked about the Earth. I think, because I'm a biblical creationist, take the Bible literally, and then I look at the science to see. Now, if I say science is going to take me away from this, I'll dump this Bible ridiculous stuff, and I'll quit going to this church thing. But so far, I haven't had any occasion to do that. I'm looking at the data, I'm looking at the evidence, I'm looking at things, I'm looking at the world. I think the Earth's like 6,000 years old. The universe, even a...
Gosher, it's 613.
Yeah, what?
6,000.
Oh, okay, well, if you're going to be strict, I was rounding. The universe could be a little bit different because even the Big Bang Theory says that the universe was created somewhat similarly to the way the Bible says, is that God stretched out the universe. The Big Bang stretched out space. If you stretch space, you stretch time. It's very clear that Andromeda, 2 million light years away, doesn't look that way today. It might not even be there, and indeed might not be the way it looked 2 million years ago in its time. And so that's a whole nother talk, but I do believe that we've only been here 6,000 years, and there's a time perspective in other parts of the universe. I believe it all did start 6,000 years ago, but some places of more time-stretched parts of the universe. And I'm just looking at a theory that's based on relativity. Some of these more time-stretched areas have experienced more time than we have had on Earth, but we're near the center of the stretching.
At some other time, I'd be glad to sit and discuss the
that would be, you asked a loaded one.
The energy and particles and so forth would seem to be at conflict with yours, but... the
energy particles?
When you get to stretching time, the frequencies of wavelengths of light and so forth are all affected by the spacing within atoms and so forth. You're going to have a really bizarre mix of physics if you start stretching the universe and have all of these things consistent with what we see.
Well, indeed, that's what the Big Bang theorist hypothesizes, a bizarre mix of physics at the beginning, yes.
I would like to offer to Alan, you're welcome to come over to my house. Abbie might give hers. I'm sure that my house is much more inundated with sin. And if you can come over and measure it, compare it to yours, I'd be interested in seeing how much more sin my house has on a measurable basis than your house.
I'll get indulgence before I come over.
Sorry, I know with that.
This is a question for each of you. I'd like you each to address it. What are telomeres doing in the middle of human chromosome number 2?
We would both say the same thing. Fusion of 2 chromosomes into 1 in the human history, yes. Wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what happened. Now, the reason we agree on that is because it's transparent to the issue of common descent. That particular matter is not in dispute, and it's transparent.
So, does the new chromosome, which used to be 2 chromosomes, count as new material?
Why would it? It'd be like gluing 2 books together. Do you have new material now? Oh.
You're saying that the human chromosome 2 codes pretty much the same way as 2 previous chromosomes with their actual telomeres in place. That's what you're saying, right?
Sure. Yeah, that would be obvious, and that would be what we observe. Okay. And how would that have anything to do with whether common descent is true?
Would you agree with that?
What would be, again, we can't really ask these questions because we can't really get the answer, but what would exactly be the point of taking 2 things that were independently functional and fusing them together?
These things just happen. It wouldn't be, we're not talking about something that happened at the creation. We're talking about something that was post the creation, this fusion.
So chimpanzees are closer to the original creation than humans are?
No, they're exactly as far away from it as we are, but we had something happen to us that didn't happen to them along the way. It's like when you were 4, if you fell off your tricycle, you got a scab on your knee that in the same place where I don't have a scar, just because of different histories. Yes?
Do you really believe that fusing them is not going to change the way things turn out in phenotype? Really?
Not unless you have a duplication like in Downs.
So we can split it up and still have humans then? Really?
Don't you think that we could?
Let's have a go.
Well, why would we want to do that?
Let's split your chromosome number 2 and see if the clones come out looking anything like you.
Is there a point to that? Of course they would, wouldn't it?
Stem cell research is legal now.
I mean, I don't see any. I see that as transparent to the two models. Both models would 100% agree on what would happen if you did that. Like with a 2114 translocation for Down syndrome. I don't see what you're trying to say.
You're saying at that time, at the time that this fusion happened, it happened to every single person on the face of the planet.
Don't forget the creation model has a genetic bottleneck 4,359 years ago, right? Right. There were 3 breeding couples left, and if they all had the fusion, everybody's got it today.
And the diversity of human genomes we see today is consistent with that model of negative 4,000 years ago.
Every evolutionist today believes that every walking, living, breathing human being is descended from one of 4 gene pools. Is that not true?
You'd have to talk to Abbie, I'm not familiar with it.
Is that not true?
I don't go that far back.
Well, it is. It's in Kenneth Miller's textbook that I showed the picture of. 4 gene pools. And if you've got 3 brothers on the ark, and they're from the same gene pool, and they got 3 wives who hopefully weren't too inbreeding, and they were from 3 different families, that makes 4 gene pools on the ark. Now, there's some genetic evidence that goes so well with the theory. Of course, I didn't just prove Noah's Ark, but it certainly goes with it. And yes, if you can get all the diversity we have today from 3 gene pools, then you can get it from the people on the ark.
From all the geneticists I've heard of, in that I don't think any of them would agree with the diversity in mankind should have happened.
I would be 100% willing a month from today to debate a geneticist on that exact question.
4,000 years. All
Sure.
the genetic diversity we see today.
Yes, from 3 breeding pairs. That would be perfectly, I'd be very happy to do that.
There's also a population genetics concept of a minimum viable population, which is one of the reasons why we're so concerned about endangered species is when we get very, very few in number. They're always susceptible to just randomly getting killed, and then you have the genetics problem. So there are problems with only having...
Which is also because of the mutations that have built up, but 4,000 years ago, it wouldn't be as many.
But mutations can sometimes be good things. as we see with endogenous retroviruses, I mean, they're totally a mistake that we do not want functional.
Well, are
but
they
yet
a
we can still
mutation?
use that use those